The most damaging free radical that creates all kinds of brain disease, contributes to diabetes, heart disease, cancer, etc., is known as hydroxyl radical. Hydroxyl radical.
So it's stealing hydrogen?
Yeah, it actually goes around. It's missing an electron and it has no good use at all. And so when we drink molecular hydrogen that's carried in water, or we consume it through a cannula from a machine, hydrogen, because of its size, can go into the body, into all cells, into all mitochondria in about 10 minutes, saturate your entire body, every cell in your body, and it sees these selective hydroxyl radicals and it binds to them and it turns them into water. So it picks up and damaging, turns it into something that is life because we're made of 65% water. So you can see how we can use this as a tool to mitigate some of the aging processes and help us have a better, longer health span.
And disease too.
Yes.
Because I know those free radicals cause disease. That's oxidation, right? Welcome back to the Transforming Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, life coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Dr. Mark Sherwood. Dr. Sherwood and I are going to be talking on the topic using unique therapies like molecular hydrogen to reverse the aging process. It seems like I'm doing a lot of talk this year on anti-aging and longevity. So I absolutely love it. This is definitely turning into be an alternative health podcast. So I love it. So welcome, Dr. Sherwood.
Myrna, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this, and it's going to be a great time. Appreciate you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm going to be learning right along with you guys about what molecular hydrogen therapy is all about. All right, so let me give you guys a brief introduction. Mark Sherwood, neuropathic doctor, and Michelle L. Neal Sherwood, doctor of osteopathy, have a full-time wellness-based medical practice in Tulsa, Oklahoma, called the Functional Medical Institute, where they adopt a whole person approach. Their goal is to lead people down a pathway of true healing. To that end, there are two purposes: to eradicate all self-imposed, choice-driven disease conditions, and two, to eliminate the uses of unnecessary medications. Through their unique clinic, various diagnostic tests are used. Healing and prevention of common disease patterns are now the norm. The couple has co-authored 4 Amazon #1 best-selling books: The Quest for Wellness, Fork Your Diet, Surviving the Garden of Eating, and The Narrow Road. I had to make sure I pronounced those well because I know you have a play on the words there, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm cursing.
Oh, that's definitely be careful with that one, right?
But you know something? That is what it's all about. You have to have a tantalizing title. So the title of a book is very important these days. So I'm glad that you guys have played on that. Amazing. But you know what? When I'm reading your bio, Mark, I couldn't help but start at one of your purposes because I like that. People have mission, people have purposes, and I like your purposes. So I'm going to start off by asking about both of them. But the first one, you said that you want to eradicate all self-imposed, choice-driven disease conditions. Now, two-part questions. How can we do that? And why did you use the word self-imposed? It looks like you're saying that we create our own illnesses. I know that's true, but is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely, Myrna. The concept of where we are in health right now in America and really around the world, but let's just talk about America. We're in the worst health shape we've ever been in the history of mankind's existence right now. And we've done a really bad job of using what we have. And instead, we've created a bunch of disease processes. And when I use the word self-imposed, that implies that it is a choice. And it really is a choice. And the problem is a lot of people, one, either don't know what to choose, or two, know what to choose and choose not to do that. And I do think that everybody has a choice. That's the beauty of this nation, that you can choose whatever, and that's great. I'm supportive of that. But what is I'm not supportive of is that people don't have the fullness of the information to make the proper choices, and I think some of the information we have is held back. For example, we had this incredibly negative growth of disease processes like type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's dementia, cancers, heart disease, autoimmune conditions. The majority of those things are completely avoidable, completely reversible, completely preventable, and yet we do them anyway. And it's like the majority of these disease processes are erroneously blamed on genes. But when I tell people that genes have changed 2% in 10,000 years, and we didn't have these particular disease patterns 200, 300, 2,000 years ago, it opens the possibility up that maybe we've been misled. Therefore, I'm back to my choices.
Is that self-imposed? Yes. Is,
You know,
well,
hey,
yeah, well, let's see. I know that diabetes is self-imposed because it's your diet and exercise.
yes,
I know that osteoporosis, I don't think I know, but I think that osteoporosis comes from calcium lack deficiency. Maybe you can tell me if I'm right or not. And maybe you choose not to drink milk or to take supplements. Cancer is a different one
yes.
because some people have the feeling that cancer is lifestyle choices.
Mhm.
So you tell me why you say that the diseases that you list are self-imposed. What are we doing to create those?
Well, I'll briefly touch on osteoporosis in a sense. When ladies, for example, get to menopause or men get later in life, they begin to have bone degradation, or they get less building as opposed to more decay, which is osteopenia leading to osteoporosis. But what is it that causes that? You think, could we bring in bioidentical hormones to prevent that? The answer is 100% yes. It is correctable, reversible. And further, because of our poor eating style, we get poor nutrient absorption. So we eat things, take things, we don't get good assimilation of those nutrients at the cell level, which drives processes of bone building. So that goes back to that choice thing again. Additionally, with medications that we take on a routine basis without the recognition that they have nutrient pullouts as part of their normal effects, that leads us to further nutrient depletions, which can lead to things such as inappropriate bone composition, right? And so then you go into this area of cancer, and that's a very complex subject. What I've learned over my time, and I will say this, that the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. And I think that, okay, keeps me curious, I guess. But I believe cancer, since we didn't have that around, years ago, as I stated, I think it's probably part of inappropriate, what I would call mitochondrial respiration. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cells. And so when we don't have good power for the cells which form organs and organ systems don't operate well. And cells begin to become dysfunctional, die or not. And therein leads to mutations or formations or DNA breakage. And the mitochondria requires oxygen and nutrients. And we are designed to operate in a normal respiration manner to provide nutrients. But yet we are told back again that we want to have glucose or carbohydrates to drive our energy, which is not true. And I'll use one test to prove my point with cancers to get people thinking. Many times when people get metastatic disease, they do a test, which is called a PET scan. And the PET scan is given after the person has consumed glucose, a glucose drink. And the
Mhm.
glucose is taken up by the tumor cells. So wherever they can see this activation of the tumor cells taking up the glucose, they know that the cancer is spread. So therefore, if the tumors take up glucose and they love glucose, why would we feed somebody
Probably eat them.
glucose?
Right, right,
So
right.
like back to the diet thing, I think there's some of that in chemicals and stuff, and just toxicity in our air that's is terrible in our society.
Wow. That's why I love this. I love being in conversations where I'm learning. I've heard about a PET scan. My sister had lymphatic, non-Hodgkin's lymphatic cancer, and she had to take the PET scan. Now she keeps herself off of sugars now. I don't know if she did before she had the cancer, but she's, because she knows that the cancer feeds off of sugar. So I didn't know that that was the process. But yeah, they always keep telling you sugar's bad, sugar's bad. And I know that sugar's bad. Stay off of the soft drinks and stay off of cakes and these things. And whenever I go to the grocery store, I'm still shocked that people have baskets of Coke and,
Yeah.
and drinks. I'm wondering, did they not get the memo? So I hear what you're saying that is self-imposed, but I've never heard that particular um reason before. I've heard people say that cancer comes from stress, and that's why I use the word lifestyle. So this is the first time I've heard that information about the mitochondria influence in cancer. So the second part is a question was, what can we do to prevent those? And let's keep talking of those three. We talked
Yeah.
about, everybody knows about diabetes. So we're talking about cancer, we're talking about osteoporosis, and what was the other one? That was it. I guess that's what we talked about.
Like that Alzheimer's dementia, we talked
Right.
about
Okay. Right.
uh, so when you look at the what can we do? So this the clear application steps, and I want people to get from today things they can do right now, you know? So you want to eat foods that it's in original packaging, original production, original form. And going back to the Garden of Eden, did they have French fry bushes? I don't think so. And did they have did they have a hot dog trees? No. Yeah, I'm being funny with that just to prove a point. But if you have food that's in its original packaging and form, fruits, vegetables, good proteins, and good fats, that's how we should eat. And if you can't imagine it growing on the ground or from a tree or swimming in the river or walking through the forest, it's not food. It never was. And the ironic thing about that, Myrna, is the government subsidizes foods that are not foods that are made cheaper and more enticing on the end caps that actually create disease processes. See, search on the perimeter, and the more the people say, well, it's too expensive, but it's not. And here's why: because if you eat on the perimeter, you're getting actual nutrients, which the body runs on. The body doesn't run on calories; it runs on nutrients. So we're talking about the choice of eating high calorie, low nutrient foods, which makes you hungry because you're not getting nutrients, compared to high nutrients, low calorie foods. So you go over here and you actually end up eating less. So there's that. We need to move every day. The body is made to move, not sit all the time. Movement is life, and lack of movement is rigor mortis. Um, we need to de-stress. You mentioned that. Um, Stay off of social media. Don't get addicted to that, and stay off of negative media, period, and give some hope. And then you need to sleep. People that think that sleep's a waste of time, no, it's not. The body recovers, regenerates, and rebuilds. And so those are four things you can do. And then other things you can look at from a clinician standpoint is hormones, peptides, understanding genetics, and even supplementation. But there's a lot we can do there without even seeing a doctor. And I think that something of a profound benefit.
Yeah, yeah. And something that that message has been pounded into everyone's head. And you're very right. You start off by saying some people know what to do and don't do it. I'm not sure where this laziness comes from, but there's a lot of people that are overweight, would not go to the gym, still eating, drinking the Cokes and going to hamburgers and getting those French fries. And they just know. It's almost like if they have a death wish, you know. But yeah, they just don't do it. But then you have the people on the other side, or it seems like there's people on the left and the people on the right, and there's, maybe not too many in the middle. But then you have the people that are running, that are eating well, that are meditating, that are doing all the right things. And some of those people still get cancer. So, but at least, that they did what they could do. And some people say that cancer is random and it's the luck of the draw or whatever. But you're right. I prefer to think that I can do something about it, and other than I have no control. Right. So I love that.
Well, I think too that a lot of people, which you mentioned, don't do what they should know they should do. But there's a reason probably why, I think, and I theorize this, but it's also based upon science. A lot of the foods that we eat today, they're so for example, sugar drives dopamine. Well, cocaine drives dopamine. And then the chemicals in the way our new grains and some dairies are formed, when it gets in our GI tract, it gets converted to these substances called exorphins, exorphins, and it binds to our opioid receptors, but like heroin. So we're talking about processed food would be like having heroin or fentanyl combined with cocaine. And so it
Wow.
becomes an addictive cycle. And the irony of it is when you go to a hospital, they give you those things to eat. And it's something is not when you go to church, they give you those things to eat. I mean, something is amiss with the psyche of the way the world is doing. So to break the cycle, if it's an addiction, which it is, you have to change your friends, and you have to change your scenario, and you have to change locations, and you can't go back to your drug dealer anymore. You don't go hang out at the bar. I mean, it's common sense, but it is an addiction and it's hard to break.
Yeah. And I like what you say, because a lot of people take that approach that it's too expensive. I can't afford. And I pass up the what you call those ones, that the foods that are expensive, that they're saying there's no pesticides. I pass those up too, because I'm thinking that, they're but I see what you mean, is that if it's no nutrient versus nutrients, then you pay the extra if you want to live and have a good lifestyle. What is the word I'm looking for? It's gone where what is the word with the foods that are supposed to be doesn't have the pesticides?
Yeah. So you're talking about organic.
Organic, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I was thinking of something with the word P in it, so I'm not sure. But yeah, organics. I mean, I look at organic fruits, and I look at the regular fruits, and I buy the regular fruits.
Yeah.
But but I think that's not that of a big a choice with me buying a hot dog versus, a steak, or I don't even know if food is, I mean, steak is probably a bad choice, but buying a chicken or something, or fish, right?
Well, and true, like here's some tips for people when you're buying produce, right? So the more thick the skin, the less need for organic, because if the pesticides are present and you don't eat the skin, then you could peel off the skin, right? The second part of that is the thinner the skin, probably the more need for potentially buying organic. However, when in doubt, as you correctly mentioned, Myrna, you buy what you can afford. You're better buying fruit than
Yes.
a package of donuts.
Right, exactly.
Uh,
That's how I look at it.
and take vinegar and water and wash the fruits and do the best you can, and then trust your body to go handle the rest. Because if you overwhelm your body with toxins, it's not going to detoxify anything.
Right, right, right. That's a good choice. That's good.
Yeah.
And I recognize that too. For instance, why am I buying organic bananas? And I turn out it's, you peel it when you peel it. So I hear you. I hear you. I understand that. Okay, all right. Now you also talk about your second purpose is to eradicate the use of medications. So how do we go about that? That's a deep one. A long time ago, I learned, even before I became a podcaster, I think I was reading a book, and I learned that prescription medications are just as bad as drugs because they both lower your energy and they're bad for your body. So people that are taking oodles and oodles of prescription drugs are almost in the same boat as you mentioned fentanyl and cocaine and all that. So is that why we're trying to get rid of medications because they're good for us, they keep us alive, but they're bad for us?
Yeah, I prefer to say to eradicate the usage of unnecessary medications, right? So I'm not a my wife and I myself, we do have prescription abilities from our clinic, but we use medications, but it's used appropriately for the shortest amount of time needed. Again, I think some of the brilliance behind medications is just incredible. But I also think the dependence upon medications in our country is very sad. And so medications do have side effects that are really not side effects. Oh, by the way, they know this. They do stop or start processes in the body that are not supposed to be start and stop, but they are starting and stop because we have symptoms that are really hurting us right now or destroying quality of life. And so when you look at medication prescriptions, you should consider prescribing it, but work to deal with the root cause so that the symptoms you're prescribing the medicine for go away because you're fixing the root cause of the symptoms. And that's just a different way to think about it because none of us are born with medication deficiencies. However, as you get into life, there are times where you might use medication, such as bioidentical hormones, if you get to the place where you're not making hormones anymore. And that would be okay. So when we use the word medications, we don't want people to think that medications are all bad. We just want them to think that they're overprescribed, overused, and certainly we depend on them in this too much of a manner.
I agree. For instance, you go to the doctor and he takes your blood and you've got high cholesterol. And then instead of him telling you how to reduce that, he gives you a pill. And so I understand basically even type 2 diabetes, which is, I think you're saying it's like 70% of people over 60 has it
Yeah.
or something. I do too. But I try to do the natural things in order to reduce mine and my A1C is going down. But yeah, they give you metformin and but they don't tell you that give you what to do naturally in order to bring it down. So, but you can look that up. They're called Dr. Google. You don't even have to get your doctor to do it. You like that, right? Dr. Google, you just Google it and it tells you what to do. But so I want you to address what I said about medications, prescription medications lower your energy. Is that true?
They can, because the main functions of medications, as stated, they're to start or stop processes that are normally going, right? And so the nutrient pullouts that it creates, so we're getting nutrients pulled out of this absorption system that are supposed to be received at the mitochondria. And so if you think about this, if the mitochondria depends on oxygen and nutrients to make energy, which it does, that's called, again, mitochondrial respiration. Then if you don't have the nutrients there, the mitochondrial energy is down, therefore the cellular energy is down, therefore the body energy is down. So, I study from a indirect leaning towards direct connection. You're right on point.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, that was a good intro to our topic. Our topic is using unique therapies like molecular hydrogen to reverse the aging process. So, what exactly is molecular hydrogen therapy? And I had a guest on here a couple months ago that introduced me to HBOT, which is hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And I actually signed up to go and take it until I recognized they're locking you into something. And I have a problem with that, so I didn't take it. So tell me about tell me about if it's the same type and what exactly is it?
Well, it's not the same type, but let me just one comment on the HBOT or the hyperbaric oxygen therapy is it's good to use to heal wounds up or heal injuries quicker, but we don't see it at present, nor does science back it up, that our opinion is that from just a maintenance standpoint, just to say we can get better with doing that, it does not match up with the reasonable card. And here's why: because we know that oxygen is an oxidant, meaning if you cut an apple and leave it on the counter, that apple's going to do what? Turn brown. Why? Because it gets
Exposed to oxygen. Right.
right. So you get too much oxygen going on, and it's not good for your cell. The body has a
Always good to get a second opinion.
right. So we're not saying that's bad. We're just saying that its usage should be more selective, right? Now, hydrogen. So remember back in the periodic table of elements, in the upper left corner, there was a number 1, and the number 1 was hydrogen. That means it's the smallest molecule from the periodic table of elements that we know. Therefore, all matter as we know it has hydrogen as part of its processes, right? We know it's in water and the air.
That's the H2O, right? Hydrogen.
Yeah. So the H is important. Now, when we understand what H does, we manufacture hydrogen in our gut, believe it or not. But as we age, we produce less, which is typical of aging. It's like
Produce everything less when we age. My goodness.
for sissies, is it? So, so what happens is we can now utilize consumption, i.e., drinking, or inhalation of hydrogen to bring it back in. And this is crazy cool. This is where it kind of becomes fascinating. And this is true. There are thousands of papers out there backing what up I'm saying right now. So in the mitochondria, back to that, fascinating how they go right back to there. But we know there's something that's created predominantly in there called free radicals. Most people heard that. Now, free radicals happen to be these molecules that are missing an electron. And just to kind of tell a story, they're angry because they're missing an electron, and they want to go around and swipe an electron from something else. And when they do, they damage the other cells. So they're free to roam, and they're radical in their actions. The most damaging free radical that creates all kinds of brain disease, contributes to diabetes, heart disease, cancer, etc., is known as hydroxyl radical. Hydroxyl radical.
So it's stealing hydrogen?
Yeah, it actually goes around. It's missing an electron, and it has no good use at all. And so when we drink molecular hydrogen that's carried in water, or we consume it through a cannula from a machine, hydrogen, because of its size, can go into the body, into all cells, into all mitochondria in about 10 minutes, saturate your entire body, every cell in your body, and it sees these selective hydroxyl radicals and it binds to them, and it turns them into water. So it picks up and damaging, turns it into something that is life, because we're made of 65% water. So you can see how we can use this as a tool to mitigate some of the aging processes and help us have a better, longer health span.
And disease too.
Yes.
Because I know those free radicals cause disease. It's oxidation, right? Right.
So on process, and we've used this technology for a number of years, and it's very well known across the globe. It's actually approved in the U.S. now for experimentation or research purposes, which is kind of cool. That's recent, and it's used in Japan for some certain selective trauma care. It has been used in China years ago for adjunct therapy, at least hypothetical, for COVID. And so it's been around for a long time. It's just that it's slow to warm up to acceptance like anything else.
Wow. 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 That's amazing. Awesome. So you have this at your center in Oklahoma. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the questions I have here are what are some of the key longevity secrets that we need to know that you can share with us?
Well, certainly, I think I'll start off with one: mindset. I mean, the greatest distractions we have, Myrna, in life are as follows. And I think most people agree with this universally: death, disease, sickness, and lack.
Lack.
Lack, like not having enough money, not having enough, right? And it stresses you out to think about those things, man. And they're real. I mean, we know life is not a straight line. It's like a 3D acid trip, not knowing what's happening next. And it's not for the people that lack of courage, because life is tough, but it's got blessings and it's got some downtimes too. But if we can structure our mindset, meaning we have a lot of things in our control that can give us benefit or increase the odds of something beneficial, then it gives us more power to ourselves. So I'm talking about empowerment with what we have control over, which makes us not helpless people, but it makes us hopeful people. And so I think that's one key. And then you got to have the right testing and the right persons around you that are testing the right things, because conventional blood work does not cut it. You have to have blood work that sort of looks between the cracks. You have to have the strategies that we talked about earlier to avoid or reverse common disease processes. And then you have to know from longevity standpoint, like things like molecular hydrogen, utilizing some peptides that can enhance like DNA repair, et cetera. These are some of the key strategies that we use all the time, and we do see from our testing. This is not theory. We see, and even though testing can be questioned too, I get all that, but what we know now, we can see slowing down, even reversal of the aging process, whereas people's biological age is quite lower than their chronological age. And so it doesn't matter what the chronology says. We've all been to like class reunions and things like that. And you had this epiphany moment. You're like, man, they look old.
I'm one of them. My biological age is way lower than my chronological age. So I know what you're talking about. This is awesome because I do the work. I'm in the space and I do the work. But I have a rebuttal question. So these are prevention, but let's say if you've got the disease, can your therapies get rid of it?
Beautiful question. The answer is we believe so. And yes, we've seen it before. Now, is even as you're in the bio, it's like it's a wild place we live in, my wife and I, because it's kind of normal for us to see people get well. I get shocked when people don't. And again, that's different. So I don't go into a disease process with the mindset I'm going to manage it. I want to fix it. Like even you mentioned a moment ago that type 2 diabetes has affected you. I'm like, no, Myrna, let's fix it. Like, let's reverse it where you can say,
I'm on one of those peptides things right now that seems to be working.
yes, and they work. They do. And you reverse it, then you can say, I used to have that. Now I don't. And so that's just a mindset thing with practical application attached.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I like that because, we always think that the, chemotherapy and those things, whatever, but I have documented proof that diet, just basically eating properly, can actually reverse cancer and reverse things like Alzheimer's and all that. So I know what you're saying. And if we can add something as beautiful as the molecular hydrogen therapy to help, again, that is great. And I love the fact that we're talking about mitochondria. I mean,
Yes.
I know of the mitochondria just as far as gut, and probiotics and things like that. But I've never gone into it as deep as we're going into it today, as far as, it being, the foundation of diseases in our life and longevity and all that stuff. So not only did I learn about, molecular hydrogen therapy today, but I learned about some of the things that the mitochondria can do, which is
Yeah.
great. So yeah, tell us about your Functional Medical Institute. I know it's in Oklahoma, but do you have any kind of online presence?
Yeah, we do. The Functional Medical Institute, we are multi-state licensed, so we really
Mm.
have clients pretty much all over the world, and
Nice.
it's good. I mean, so we have no problem working with people, but I think our whole mission statement is clear, and it's to lead people on the pathway of true healing, whatever that means to them. And so, if people have a mindset that I want to stay well, be well, whatever, work on longevity, it's a good place. And my wife and I actually have done this for a long, long time. And we, it's funny with this, they need to know about us. We don't recommend, prescribe, push anything that we don't do and or are doing ourselves, because I think it's a little bit hypocritical. So we're not going to do that. And but we really love to help people, Myrna, and there are social media links down there. Kind of our main website that we use, kind of a global one, is Sherwood.tv. So but we get out there, we can give away free stuff. There's blogs, there's videos that we put out all the time. There's free ebooks that people can get. So we can work with people, but even if not, I mean, there's still resources. We want to be a blessing out there.
Okay, well, that's great. So, yeah. So, with the therapy, they have to obviously, it's something that they hook up to, right? So they have to, but you said something about drinking, so you can order it?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I have this. This is on my desk, not just for this interview, but it's here. So this is a little bottle that we actually import from Asia. And here's what you do. I'll just show you real quick. It's real simple. I've got some just regular old filtered water here that I put in here like this, and put the lid on. Anybody can do that. And then there's a button you push right down here. It's got a USB charging port. Push the button here, and when I push the button in a second, a blue light will come on, and you can watch. You'll see eventually some bubbles. See those? So down here,
The hydrogen?
the H2O is being separated via electrolysis and then being infused back into the water. So the H2O becomes a carrier of H2. And when the light goes off, you have to just drink it. That's pretty easy. So these little
I want one of those. And what's that called?
Yeah, this is called a molecular hydrogen portable bottle, and people can find these at sherwood.tv/H2. Real simple.
I love that. I'm glad I asked the question because people might be listening and thinking, I'm not going to Tulsa, Oklahoma. But yeah, which is why I asked the question. So that's amazing. I definitely, and you can reuse that, I guess, for a while.
I've had that bottle right there for 7 years.
You're
And
kidding.
honestly, I just keep recharging it. And when you need to clean it, because sometimes little minerals can get gunked up in there from the water, use a little bit of citric acid, like a half a teaspoon, run a couple cycles, dump it out, clean it, and go again. And it's just
Love
that machine is foolproof. It's got a platinum base to it, so it doesn't. We test them for metals and
that.
and so it goes about 5 times more than the saturation level of hydrogen in water, but it's pretty potent. It does a good job.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So yeah, because I heard you said you can drink it and then you can inhale it. So if they're going to be inhaling it, they have to get to a physical location, I'm assuming, right?
They can, but we have secured enough favor with countries like Japan that we can import machines here, and several of our clients, even the ones with active cancers, have purchased these physician grade inhalation machines, and you can do it in your home, which is kind of cool. We didn't want it at our house,
Love that. I love that. I
but
love that.
but
Yes,
please
yes.
bring some hydrogen.
All right, good. I like it. And I don't have to go into a chamber that's close
No,
me up.
you just make what you want. It's harmless. There's no upper limit to it. Just
Okay.
yeah.
All right, I love it. Okay, so your website is sherwood.tv,
Yes.
and to get those bottles, it's slash H2.
Correct.
What are your social media handles?
Well, you're going to find doctors, DRS, Mark, and the word and Michelle Sherwood. We're out there on Instagram at that. Facebook is Functional Medical Institute. And we have a pretty good account on Twitter. It's right now Mark Sherwood, the number 4, the letter E. And that's pretty much our main connectors out there.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, I will tag you on Instagram when I post the marketing clip and on Facebook as well. And I don't do too much about Twitter, but yes. So, Mark, it's been I knew it was going to be an amazing conversation. I came in to learn. I set my intention, set my mindset, and I came out learning a few things. And I'm definitely going to pick up that bottle and start drinking my hydrogen. That's absolutely amazing. All right. Well, listen, thank you, Mark, for being on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of Transforming Your Mind to Transforming Your Life. Today, we were talking about using unique therapies like molecular hydrogen to reverse the aging process. Dr. Mark and I went through some of the ways that you can, eradicate your disease by making a choice to live right and eat right and move and sleep and all those things. And these are not things that we don't know because every single person comes on and says those are the foundations, right? And you got to do them, right? Um, uh, one of the guys that I follow, David Goggins, talking about you got to stay hard and you got to do all these really hard things like run 100 miles and bench press up 24 hours. But I just walk and do some strength training. You know what I mean? You don't got to go crazy. So yeah, that's basically what you do. And the second lesson that we learned today was that, use, prescription medicine to help your issue, but don't make it a lifelong thing. Don't just stay on it. You start off by taking metformin for your diabetes, but you need to work on reducing your A1C and doing the things that you keep because it's reversible. I've heard people even, I'm on I get emails from a diabetic guy, and he has shared people reverse type 1 diabetes, which I thought was impossible to do. But if you do the work, you can reverse these things. And we talked about, osteoporosis, how you can prevent that, and cancers. Yeah, listen, cancer is becoming more and more popular. People are getting it. One person says it's random, it's a luck of the draw. Another person says that, you can prevent it, and you can even cure it once you have it. So which one are you going to believe? You're going to sit there and say there's nothing I can do because it's random, or you're going to do something about it. Make the choice to do something about it. So,
Okay.
that was just my synopsis of our conversation today. Dr. Mark, as we, sign off, do you have any last words?
No, I just appreciate you, Myrna. Thank you for having me on. That was a very good summation of what.
Information.
Yeah, and I think too. I think if anything else, I wear these wristbands here that say "Hope Dealer."
Okay.
Hopefully, there's some hope out there for folks with some information. We're just here to kind of help each other. So hopefully, this has been beneficial for some people.
I love it. Yes, there is hope. You can't be hopeless, Even people that have got metastatic cancer, there's hope. Maybe not to reverse it, but there's hope that they can extend their lives by 5 years, 10 years or something because there's something they can do. So yes, don't live hopeless. So all right. So thanks again for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Mark, for being on the show. Until next time, namaste.